Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Kevin, and I would like to share with you this exciting AWS Cloud hands-on project I recently completed. I implemented a prompt deployment and content generation pipeline using Amazon Bedrock and S3 buckets, which were fully orchestrated through GitHub Actions. The use case for this project is a digital-first education startup named Pixel Learning Co., who wants to streamline the creation and publishing of student and instructor-facing content. Currently, their content team regularly drafts prompt templates to generate onboarding messages, study tips, and even course summaries using Gen AI foundation models. They have an existing Amazon S3 bucket set up for static website hosting and utilize Amazon Bedrock services, particularly chat and text, within the Playgrounds feature, and use Anthropic's Claude 3 Sonnet model. This task is manually performed by each team member. When a response is generated, it is copied and pasted into the default index.html file, which is then made public to all through the website endpoint URL. With my implementation, I've created a process whereby members of the content team can manage prompts within a GitHub repository, utilize workflows via GitHub Actions, and have a supervisor approve changes prior to merging to the main branch. Efficiency, compliance, and automation. So without further ado, let's get to the video. So for this hands-on project, I will be working with two different accounts, one being my AWS account, my second being my GitHub account. So within the AWS account, I will be creating two S3 buckets, one for the beta environment, one for the prod environment. Now for the one in the beta environment, I will be creating a beta folder and an output subfolder. This is going to be used to contain HTML files. Now for the prod environment, I'm going to create a prod folder and an outputs subfolder. Once again, it's going to contain HTML files. I will also be creating a default index.html file for both buckets, which will be contained in the root. I'm going to be creating permissions for the buckets so that the contents, the objects, can be seen from without, particularly from my GitHub account. I will be creating an IAM role. This role will be utilized by the GitHub account. I'm going to give full access to Amazon Bedrock and to the S3 buckets. So now within the GitHub account, I will be creating a repository. So within a repository, I'm going to create two folders. Prompt templates folder, which is going to create text files. Within the text file is going to be customized prompts that I want to present to Amazon Bedrock to read. There's going to be a prompt folder, which is going to contain JSON files. Within the files are going to be variables. These variables will be used within the templates. I'm going to create a Python script. Within GitHub Actions, I'm going to create two workflows, one for pull requests, one for merge requests. Finally, I'm going to create a GitHub secrets. Within that is going to contain information about my IAM role, the access key ID, the secret access key, the AWS region name, and the names of my S3 buckets. So let's go through the process really quick. Any changes to the files in the repository, templates, the text files, the JSON, Python script, the YAML files for the workflows, even the README file. A commit changes will be needed. Once that's pushed through, we're going to have to do a pull request. Pull request is going to create a branch. Now we're going to call on a Python script. It's going to call on the text file and the JSON file. It's going to put a prompt together, present that prompt to Amazon Bedrock. The model that we'll be using within Bedrock will be our Claude 3 Sonnet. That service is going to generate a response. That response, the script is going to take it and save it in the HTML format. So since it's a pull request, it's going to go to our beta environment. It's going to drop it in the beta outputs folder as an HTML file. Within the script, we're going to copy the contents to our default index.html file. And since it's a static website, that bucket website endpoint URL will be seen by instructors and students. Now, if everything looks good on our beta environment, we're going to do a merge request. I'm going to go through the same process, Python script, pulling the text, pulling the JSON, creating the prompt, bringing the prompt to Bedrock, Claude S3. Sonic is going to create a generator response. That response will be saved in the format of an HTML file in our product environment. Prod outputs folder, copy of the HTML to our index.html file, and our instructors and students will see via the URL of the contents. So let's go to our bucket creation. So presently I'm in my AWS account, and I'm going to create two S3 buckets, one for the beta environment, the second for the prod environment. So right now let's create our first bucket, and this is going to be in our beta environment. Let's give it a very unique name, AWS. Okay, AWS prompt processing beta S3. Okay, so right now we have block all public access. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to enable this for website hosting. So let's just unblock this. Let's select the acknowledgement form. We're going to leave all the other settings as is. Let's create the bucket. Okay, so the bucket has been successfully created. Let's keep in mind we are in the US East 1 region. AWS prompt processing beta S3. Okay, so let's go into the bucket. Now the second thing we want to do is we want to set up our permissions for this bucket. So let's go to permissions, and we're going to create a bucket policy. So let's click on edit, and let's click on the bucket ARN, and we're going to go to policy generator. Okay, type of policy, this is going to be S3 bucket. Principal, it's going to be a wildcard. Actions, we want to do a get objects. Okay, so here's the get object. Amazon resource name, this is the ARN that we copied earlier. Let's paste it in here. We're going to do a / wildcard. Now let's take a look at the statement. Okay, so for all IP addresses, we're going to allow access get object to the bucket. This is the bucket name. Let's generate the policy. All right, this is in JSON format. We're going to copy this, and we're going to paste it in our policy bucket. Okay, that looks good. We're going to save the changes. All right, as you can see, the changes have been saved. Let's go back to our policy generator tab. We're going to close this out, and we're going to close the tab. Okay, so right now we've set up the bucket. We've set up a bucket policy. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to enable static web hosting. So let's go to our properties prompt, Let's go all the way to the bottom. Static website hosting. By default, it's disabled. So let's go and edit. We want to enable it. And by default, this is going to create, we're going to have an index.html file within our folder, default folder. And this is how the website, this is going to show the website, the text or images that we have. Index.html. Okay, so we have that there. Let's save the changes. Okay, let's wait a few minutes. Okay, successfully saved. Okay, so we have the beta environment bucket. We have permissions set up, and it's set up for website hosting. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, we want to set up two folders. We want to set up a beta folder, and we want to set up a subfolder, outputs. So let's create a folder. All right, it's taking some time. Okay, now the folder name is going to be beta, and we're going to create this folder. Oh, let me get rid of that / Okay, so we have the beta folder. Let's select that. Within the beta folder, we're going to create another folder. We're going to call this folder outputs. And let's create that. Okay, so we have an outputs folder. Let's go back to the basic page of the bucket. All right, so we've created a beta folder. Within that, we've created an outputs folder. So we've completed setup of our initial bucket in the beta environment. So now let's go set up a bucket for our prod environment. So let's go to the buckets main page. Let's create a bucket. And let's give this one a similar name. I'm going to make sure it's unique. AWS prompt processing prod S3. Okay, AWS prompt processing prod S3. Okay, we're gonna unblock public access, select acknowledge. Everything here stays the same. Create the bucket. Okay, so we've created that bucket successfully. And you can differentiate the buckets, one ending in beta, one ending in prod. Let's go to the prod. Okay, so let's enable permissions. Let's create a bucket policy. So let's go and edit this. Select ARN, policy generator. This is going to be for S3 bucket policy. Principal, going to be wildcard. Same thing we did for our beta bucket. All actions. Let's see, get object right here. Paste the ARN / wildcard. Add statement. So for all IPs, allowed to get to the objects, see the objects within the bucket name, generate the policy. We're going to copy this, go back, paste this in, JSON format, statement, this looks good, save the changes. Okay, successfully edited the policy. Go to the tab, close this out, close that tab. Okay, so we successfully set up permissions. Let's now enable static web hosting. Okay, so let's edit. enable, and we're going to set up default index.html. So it's going to reference this HTML file anytime someone tries to go to the URL. The contents of this file is what will be shown. I'm going to save the changes. Okay, changes have been saved. Now we have the bucket permissions set up, bucket policy, website hosting is enabled. And now let's create the two folders. Create the first folder. This one is going to be called prod because this bucket is for the prod environment. Create the folder. All right, now let's go into that folder. We're going to create another folder. We're going to call this one outputs. All right, we're going to create this folder. Okay, we have outputs, prod. Okay, so we've successfully set up both folders. We set up an beta for the beta environment, prod for the prod environment, and an output subfolder. We set up permissions. We set up web hosting for each. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to upload our index.html file to both buckets. Now keep in mind that both the website, the static websites, they're looking for the index.html file to reference so that when you click on the URL, they can show you the contents of the file. Also, our Python script is going to be looking for this file so that it can copy the created HTML file with the resolution information to this default index.html file. So let's go to the first bucket, the beta bucket. I'm going to upload, add a file, and I have a folder where I have the index file. Open. I'm going to upload that. Close it. Okay, so in our root folder of the bucket, we have the index.html file. So let's go to our prod bucket. We're going to go to upload. We're going to go to add files. I'm going to select the very same index.html file. Select upload. Close this out. We have it there. So now both buckets have the index.html file and are ready for our next step. Let's go to our IM dashboard. Let me open up another link or another tab. We're going to go to users. So let's create a new user. We're going to call this user GitHub prompt processing. So GitHub prompt processing user. All right, let's go to next. And we're going to attach policies directly to this account. The first one we're going to do is S3. We're going to select Amazon S3 full access. And the next thing we're going to select is Bedrock. We're going to do Amazon Bedrock full access. Okay, so now let's go to next. So you see we have permissions set for Amazon Bedrock full access, Amazon S3 full access. So let's create the user, and you see the user was successfully created. And the name is GitHub Prompt Processing User. This account will be utilized by our GitHub account. So let's select in here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to set up our security keys. Let's go to security credentials. we're going to create access key. Now we're going to select application running outside AWS. I'm going to go to next, and we're going to create the access key. Okay, so you can see we have the access key which is created. We're now going to store the key and the secure access key, the secret secure access key, in a .cvs file. Alright, so I'm going to go to the side and let me go to my folder where I currently keep all my access keys. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste access key ID and secret access key into my folder, so I have that information. Okay, so now let's select done, and we have successfully created our IAM user account for our GitHub account. So now let's go to Bedrock. Now we want to make sure we have Bedrock enabled so that we can use it. So let me open up another tab, close this out. Alright, so right now we're in the Amazon Bedrock dashboard, and we're going to be utilizing for an AI agent Anthropic's Claude 3 Sonnet. So let's go to our model catalog. Here we have all the various third-party AI, Gen AI, and machine learning applications. So as you can see, we have Anthropic, Claude. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we have that application with access granted. So I've used this app before in prepping for this hands-on project. So right now you see Claude 3, access granted. And if I select it, you see that it has access granted. So it's pretty much selecting a link and waiting a few minutes for it to give you or grant you that access. So for example, if we were to go back to model catalog, let's take a look at something I don't have access to. Let's say I was looking at Claude 3.5 Haku, and you would see it says available to request. I would select that. And you see here it has a link available to request. I would select that link, request model access, and here it would show me the different apps, access granted. You see I have Titan embedded. It shows you what you have access to and what you don't have access to. So as I said before, Claude 3.5 Haku, you would just select available to request. Once you have that selected, you can go to next, and you wait a few minutes. You'd have it granted for you to utilize. So let's go back. Okay, so let's go back to the model catalog, and in a nutshell, we are going to use Claude 3. We have the access granted, so now we are ready to utilize this AI agent for this hands-on project. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a repository in my GitHub account. So we are now in my GitHub account, and I'm going to create a repository. So let's go to the plus, new repository, and I'm going to name this AWS prompt processing CI/CD. The name should be very similar or close to what we have in our AWS account, so that when we look this up, we know what it's referencing. So we have AWS prompt processing CI/CD pipeline. Okay, it's going to be a public. We're going to add a README file, and we're going to add a gitignore file. And this is going to be for Python script. Okay, we don't need a license file. And we're going to have a main branch set up. So let's create repository. Okay, so we have our new repository set up. AWS prompt processing CI/CD pipeline. So we have a gitignore file, and we have our README file. So the next thing we want to do is our main branch is named main, and we want to protect that. So let's go to settings. Okay, let's go to branches. We're going to do add classic branch protection rule. Okay, so let's just name this rule main. Require pull requests, require approvals, dismiss stale pull requests, require review from code owners, require approval of the most recent reviewable push, require status checks, require branches to be up to date, and lastly require conversation resolution before merging. Branch name pattern. Okay, let's go ahead and create. Okay, so we have the branch protection rule in place. So let's go back to our repository. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to create two folders. The first one is for prompts_templates. That's going to be for our text files. The text files is going to include the type of prompt we want to send to Bedrock so that we can get a good response back from it. And a prompts folder, which is going to contain variables, which are going to be utilized within the text in our templates. So let's create a new file. All right, I'm going to name this file prompts templates, and we have to put a file within it in order for this folder to be created. So we'll keep it simple. Sample.txt. We're going to commit changes, and let's commit it directly to the branch. Bypass rules and commit changes, since we're just building the foundation. All right, let's go back. We have a prompts template. Now let's create the next one, and we're going to call this one prompts. And let's do basic. This prompts is going to contain our JSON files. So let's go ahead and create a generic. pass rules and commit. If we go back to the main repository, so we have two folders created. We have a prompts and we have a prompts template. Okay, so we have the two folders, git ignore, readme file. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our workflows. So we're going to create one for our pull requests, one for our merge requests. So let's go to actions. We're going to set up a workflow. Okay, let me go to my notepad where I saved the script that will be used for the first one. Okay, so the first one we're going to call, this is for pull requests. Pull requests. On pull requests, it's going to be a YAML file. So let me go copy, paste this in here. Okay, so here's a script for the pull request. And as you can see, it's going to save the files from the pull request to the beta environment. And these are some of the variables we have that we're going to set up in our secrets. And it's going to pull a Python script that we're going to upload to the repository called process_prompt. So let me save this one. I'm going to save it directly to the main branch. Right now we're building up the foundations, the infrastructure to this workflow. So let's go back here. You see we have the initial workflow set up. So let's go create the second one. New workflow. Okay, so we're going to, let me go to my notepad again. This is going to be for merge requests. So we're going to put on merge. So this is on merge. Let me copy from my notepad, paste it in. So all merge requests are going to go to the name prod environment, and these are the variables, and it's going to pull from the process_prompt.py, the Python script. All right, so let me save these, commit changes directly to the main branch. Okay, so we have the two workflows. So we have the two workflows, two folders, git ignore and readme. So now what we need, we're going to set up our secrets. We're going to set up our secrets. So let's go to settings. We're going to go to secrets and variables. We're going to go to actions. Okay, let me go to my notepad. Okay, so the first thing we're going to set up, new repository secret. We're going to call this one AWS access key. The AWS access key ID, and let me copy, paste it in here. Let me add the secret. Okay, so we have that successfully added. Set up another one. This is going to be our AWS secret access key. AWS secret access key. Let's make sure the spelling is good. We want to get this right. Let's take our time. Copy. Paste it in here. Add the secrets. Okay, so that was done. Let's create the next one. This one is going to be our AWS region. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be the region that our bucket is in. And if you remember, we stated that we're in the US East 1. Okay, so let me just type that in here. US East 1. Let me save that. Okay, so now we have 2 more secrets we have to add. The first one is going to be for S3 bucket beta. Okay, so now we need the name of the bucket in our beta environment. So I'm going to go to my tab where I have the full name, copy it, put it in here, AWS prompt processing beta.s3. And now finally, I'm going to do the second bucket. So this one is going to be S3 bucket prod. Let me go to my tab, select that bucket name, copy paste. So we have AWS prompt processing prod S3. Okay, so we have our repository for the secrets, access key ID, a region, secret access key, S3 bucket beta, and bucket prod. So let's go back to the repository. So now what we need to do is we need to upload our completed Python script. But before we can do that, so in order to help us to do that, we're going to clone our repository to our local desktop. So now we're ready to clone our repository. So let's go to the code and we're going to open with GitHub Desktop. I do have a local copy on my local machine. We're going to let this open. Okay, so we just opened and we're going to clone this again. I had a previous copy of this folder on my desktop. Okay, so we see with the GitHub Desktop, it takes us directly to the cloned copy on my desktop. We have the AWS prompt processing CI/CD pipeline, and it's connected to the main branch. And what we're going to do now is we're going to open, or we're going to actually show this in our Explorer. All right, so let me bring this. Okay, so we're actually in the folder on my desktop. We have the prompts folder, we have the prompt template folder, and we have the README file, and we have the workflow. Okay, so I'm going to add. Let me open up the prompts templates folder. Now the prompts template folder is going to contain a text file. And this is the text file which is going to contain the customized prompt we're going to send to Bedrock. So let me go to the side. All right, let me drag this over. Okay, so I have that there. And the default text that I had created earlier, I'm going to delete that because we no longer need this. Okay, so right now we're looking at the summary cloud. So let me go one level up. I'm going to go to the prompts folder. This is going to contain our JSON file, which is going to have our variables. Let me go to okay, that was dropped. And the previous sample JSON file, I'm going to delete that. If that was deleted, go one folder up. Okay, so now we drop those two files. Now we're going to create the Python script. So let's open Visual Studio. Let me bring Visual Studio over. And as you can see, Visual Studio also connects to the newly created folder where we have prompts, prompt templates, readme file. So I'm going to create the new file. I'm going to call this process prompt.py, process_prompt.py. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my notepad. And I'm going to copy and paste the script that I have. Okay, so the script has been created, saved into this file. I'm going to break this Python script down a little later, and let me save it. Okay, so this is saved. All right, so let's go to desktop. All right. So now I want to create a branch so that I can have all my changes saved to. So let's do new branch. Let's call this prompt updates. Prompt-updates. Prompt-update. Let's create the branch. We're gonna use this branch for our changes. All right, we're gonna do. This is a list. We have 5 changed files to upload. We're gonna commit 5 files. All right, we're gonna publish this to branch. And as you see, it just hit the remote GitHub account. We're gonna compare and pull request. All right, we're gonna create the pull request. Now this is saying an approval is required. Remember, one of the rules that we set is for approval to be done other than the person making the change. Okay, so the pull request went through successfully. We're going to take a look at that. And let me go ahead and push. Let's do the merge. Merge without waiting for requirements. Bypass rules and merge. Once again, since I'm the one making the changes, in a production environment, if I make the changes, I wouldn't be the one to push it, to merge it through. I would need a supervisor to do this. But since this is just a project, I'm going to just bypass this rule and push the changes. Okay, so we see that it went through successfully. I'm going to delete that branch. Alright, let's go to the main repository. Alright, so as you can see, we have the Python, the py file is here. If we go to prompts, you see that we have the file summary cloud JSON that's here. And as I said before, this prompts shows you the variables. So these are the variables that we have: course name, module title, topic. And this variable, this is what should be shown within this variable. And when we go to our template, this is the prompt that we're going to send to Bedrock. These are the variables: course name, whatever's in our course name is going to be placed within this dictionary. Same thing with module, topics covered. And this is a breakdown of the prompt. You are a technical educator summarizing course content for students. Please write a concise summary, 1 to 2 paragraphs, that highlights the key takeaways from this module. Use student-friendly language. Format the output in clean, structured HTML with headings and bullet points, so it's easy for students to read on a web page. Make font size large enough for ease of reading and have a fun theme. Make the background color light blue. So these are the prompts I'm going to send to Bedrock. We're going to use Anthropic's Claude 3, which is going to take this and create the needed response. It's also going to work with these variables to input into that. Okay, so let's go back to the basic. Now, before I show you the response from the Anthropic's Claude 3, both from the pull requests and from the merge, I'm just going to update the README file and just quickly go through the process. So let's go to the README file, and of course any changes within this is going to need a commit changes. So let me click on the edit and let me go to my notepad. Okay, so let me copy and paste what I have from my notepad. Alright, let me commit the changes. And I'm just going to do this directly to the main branch. Bypass the rule. Okay, let me go to the main. So as you can see, the title has changed. It's Prompt Processing Pipeline with Amazon Bedrock and GitHub Actions. So this goes through like a table of contents, the overview of the project. This repo processes prompt templates with config files and uses Amazon Bedrock for inference. The output is uploaded to an S3 bucket configured as a static website. Goes through all the basic steps, the AWS resources that were created, GitHub secrets, templates and prompts, and it goes through the different workflows, the pull request and the merge request, and talks about viewing the outputs. Once you select the bucket of interest, either the beta or the prod, you can go to, for example, the S3 bucket, the AWS console. To take a look at the bucket, you go to the beta outputs folder. You will see the created HTML file. that file will be copied to the default index.html file, and then you can go to the properties tab of your bucket, copy and paste the bucket website endpoint URL into your web browser, and you should see the contents of the generated response. And it goes through basic notes. No credentials are hard-coded. Bedrock model used, Anthropic Claude 3 Sonnet, and uses real-time Bedrock inference only. So this saves you a lot of money. You're getting live responses from Claude, and that's the breakdown of the README file. Okay, so now it's time to test out our workflow. So if we were to be any of the members of the content team, what they would have to do is, within the GitHub repository, go to the prompts folder. Now within the prompts folder, they have the JSON file. And within that JSON file, we have the variables that they can utilize, they can change so that they can have customized prompts to provide to Amazon Bedrock. So now there is a cloud engineering bootcamp that's in place, and they have a lot of students that are involved in that. So the content team is going to put out some module titles, and they're going to utilize the AI agent Claude to summarize a lot of these modules for the student. So right now, as you can see, they have module title CI/CD in the cloud, and the topics covered is code pipeline, GitHub Actions, automated testing, deployment strategies. So now this is going to be used within the first template, and so that we can push this through, let's make a change in the repository, and let's make a change specifically. We're going to do this to the README file. So let's go to edit, and I'm just going to make a slight change. I have a period after the only. I'm just going to remove that period, and we're going to commit the changes. We're going to propose changes. All right, we're going to create a pull request. Okay, and we're going to do the pull request to our new branch. And if that looks good, if the website looks good as well, then we're going to do the merge request. And this error, as stated before, is because we need an approver to verify and to approve the merge. And since I'm the only one making the change, I'm going to just have to bypass this rule. So here we see the pull request was successful. Let me go ahead and select merge without waiting for requirements to be met. Bypass rules and merge. Confirm bypass rules. Okay, so that was successful. Let me delete the branch. Okay, so that was good. So now let's go to the S3 bucket. And remember, the pull request goes to the beta environment. The merge goes to the prod environment. So let's take a look at the beta environment. Let's take a look at the beta outputs folder. You see a change was made, 101. So let's now go and see if that was pushed to the index file, and it was 101. Okay, let's come back out and let's go to the prod folder. Let's see if the merge was successfully pushed. That was pushed at 102. Let's go back. Index file, 102. Okay, so those were done well. Now let's take a look within the beta folder. Let's take a look at our URL. So we're going to select bucket endpoint, and we're going to select the in private browser. We don't want to have any cache or cookies saved from the previous work that I was doing. So this is going to be a fresh connection. Okay, so this is what the CI/CD module looks like. Key takeaways, and you have the key topics that were covered. Okay, so this is in the beta environment. So now let's go to the buckets. Now keep in mind, in the prod environment, the HTML file is the very same thing. There's no changes. If everything is good in the beta environment, we just do an approval and a merge for the merge request, and that goes through. Now keep in mind, the same prompt that was pushed to Claude is being pushed again in the prod environment. Now the content team is going to make another template change, and they're going to do this within the prompts. So they want to change, instead of the CI/CD in the cloud, they're going to change this to AWS Fundamentals module. So let me copy that. Okay, and the topics. Let me copy the topics. My notepad. Let me paste this one in. Okay, same cloud engineering bootcamp, different module, different topics. So let's commit the changes. A new branch has been created, proposed changes. All right, let's create the pull request. Okay, we're gonna wait. The prompt has been pushed to Bedrock. Bedrock pushing it to Anthropic's Claude 3 Sonnet, waiting for a generated response. That response is going to be put into an HTML file, and that file is going to be dropped into the beta outputs folder, copied to the index.html. Okay, so this was successful. Select this, bypass rules and merge, confirm bypass. All right, so let's wait for these changes to take effect. Okay, so that was done. Let's delete the branch. Okay, so that was done. Let's go to the bucket. Once again, let's go to the beta environment. Beta outputs. 106 is a timestamp. Index 106. Now let's go to the prod environment. Make sure the merge was successful. Prod output 107. Index 107. All right, so let's take a look at the beta environment. Website endpoint. Browser. Okay, so this is the AWS fundamentals. Key takeaways. See how it breaks it down by Amazon services. Okay, so now we're going to do this. Now we have one more module that the content team wants to push out to the students. So let's go back to our repository, prompts, JSON file, edit, and this module is going to be, the title for this is going to be Docker and Container Fundamentals. Okay, let's take a look at the topics. Okay, so let's now commit changes, branch, do a create pull request. Okay, I'm gonna wait for the pull request to be completed. Once again, this process works much better now than what the content team had previously. Everything is being done within one repository. Changes are being done, being pushed to the static website. All right, so that was done. Let's select bypass rules, confirm, merged and closed, delete the branch. Okay, that looks good. Let's go to the S3 bucket, data environment, data outputs, timestamp 110, index 110. Let's go to prod outputs 111, timestamp, index 111. So let's take a look at the beta environment, properties. Let's take a look at the website endpoint. Okay, Docker and container fundamentals. Key takeaways. This is what the students will see when they go to the website. All right, let's bring this back. Okay, so we've utilized 3 different prompts for Pixel Learning Co. This is all for Cloud Engineering Bootcamp. Prompt 1, they use CI/CD in the cloud. 2, AWS fundamentals. 3, Docker and container fundamentals. So this project has been a real great learning experience for me, especially dealing with AWS, Gen AI, deep learning, LLMs, and looking forward to working with more artificial intelligence tools. And look out for my next projects, up and onwards into the cloud. Take care. Thank you.